wondering to learn the language and how to read it properly. Like that's been one of my goals to to structure it properly. But that looks so cool. That looks so cool. But one thing I can figure out, why is the letter E is always like an English letter I? That's one thing that has been bugging my mind for so many years, and I've never had to ask any of my friends, any of my colleagues about this. Like something that can fit in my brain. Why is that? It was even when I was a kid, I was traveling to Ukraine many times, and I've been seeing and reading this, and this has been bugging my brain. Like I was just trying to figure out why is this happening, but like they could have come up with any other letter in this world rather than they've used actually the I don't know, the international one, like the international symbol. So that was for me a very challenging moment to figure this out. But yeah, just because of the work and the colleagues and everyone, I've been really badly dreaming to fly back to Ukraine, because I've been to Kiev a couple of times. I've been to a couple of cities, but there's still, like, I've been to Kiev like 10 years ago. So my guess is that things have changed drastically over that last 10 years. What I will be able to see now, and what is what was there back like 10 years ago.
So we are ready to start.
Alrighty, so we are already live. Am I getting it right?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, that's brilliant. So just maybe give a technical team a couple of seconds just to figure out whether the connection is good. So whether we are actually seen on the YouTube, that's the most important. That'll be the most interesting and the most entertaining part of all of this. So technical issues are something that we cannot avoid. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So Maria, if you could confirm to me, please, that everything is all right with the YouTube connection, everybody can see us and hear us. That'll be amazing.
Yeah, everything great.
Okay. So I assume that we shall start then from now on. So, hi, dear viewers. Hope you're doing fine, and I hope you're also wondering, what am I doing here? So my name is Anton, and I'm the representative of InMind platform. I've been invited by our beloved guests from ASPRO to actually moderate and be a bit, kind of a guy who throws a lot of questions, the guy who moderates the talk, the guy who just, visualizes and supervises some of the conversations that we'll be having. But for sure, I think that the most important part here is not me. So you just don't pay attention to me. You pay attention to the two amazing guys that we have here in the studio. Before I introduce you to them, I'd like just to, touch on a couple of things, especially regarding the main topic, which I think that is super valuable. I think this is super important. And I think that each and one viewer, whoever is watching us right now, or whoever will watch us later on, will find a valuable information. Will find a real good value, and in the content that the guys are going to present us with. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to the main topic, which is the top 5 issues that are slowing down the development workflow. So these guys are going to be tackling the 5 most, I would say, interesting factors or points that actually play the role in slowing down the development workflow process, but also they will be actually telling you how to prevent it. So if we could just generalize it for you, I would say that the main 3 aspects of this topic will be what, why, and how to prevent it. So, try to allocate yourself to this, sit back, take out your, get your popcorn ready, get your snacks ready. I think that this is going to be amazing. So without further ado, allow me to introduce you to our guests. Guest number 1 is Joel, and the guest number 2 is Andrew. So there is no, let's say, order of how I introduce you to them. These guys are amazing. They are super huge talents of their own industries. They are the sharks of their industries. So I would certainly and 100% guarantee that their information will be super valuable to you. So guys, welcome to see you here. I'm just going to be introducing and talking to you for a couple of seconds so that, we can actually properly get to know you with our viewers. So Andrew, could you please walk us through a little bit about your expertise, about, your duties, what do you do? And of course, the most important question, how are you doing today? That's the number 1 question.
Thank you, Anton. I'm doing great today. Hi, all. So my name is Andrew. I'm the co-founder and COO at Espro. And I'm responsible for the whole delivery process in Espro. I have started my career as the project manager. And actually, I was the one who is responsible for all delays and issues that were happening on the projects. And I was doing my best to prevent them. And right now I'm responsible for the whole development and delivery process at Espro. And today on our conversation, I will represent the delivery point of view on these issues. And we will try to figure out how to overcome these issues. I hope you'll enjoy it.
Okay, thank you very much. Joel, please walk us through your academic working experience, your expertise, because I'm sure that you also have something to say about this.
Sure, Anton. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm Joel, founder and managing director at Warlabs. Warlabs is a digital product studio located in Switzerland. We strategize, design, and build digital products, services, and experiences. And we focus on verticals such as blockchain, fintech, and digital platforms. And what I believe makes us unique is that we not only develop products and services for clients, but we also work on our own ventures. Over the past 15 years, I've worked for different organizations, from large international corporations such as IBM to really early stage startups with 2-3 people. And all this has given me insights into many different software projects. And in this discussion, I'll share some of those insights, and I will represent the business perspective.
Got you. Okay, well, that was very quick and very direct. So got nothing else to ask you here for the moment, but please be aware, I will be asking some of the questions. And so will be asking the questions with the viewers. So my message now is to the viewers, is addressed to the viewers. Guys, whoever is watching us right now live on YouTube, you are more than welcome to ask your questions to our main guests, to our main speakers of the show. So whatever you think that is important to ask or to specify, or maybe you have any other questions that you were thinking about, you are more than welcome. And I will be selecting some of the interesting questions and actually later on addressing them as well to our speakers. But I think that before we start, there's one last person that I'll also introduce you. I will not ask her to speak or nor to introduce you, but you should also appreciate the effort that is going behind the curtains of all of this show. This person is Maria, so she's also helping us out today with some of the small things. She will be, looking for the technical side of all the, of all the live, let's say, transmission that we're headed to. So please also, with your virtual round of applause, if I may say this, you can also congratulate and welcome her to our show here. So from my personal perspective, my personal view, thank you, Maria, for actually making it happen. Thanks to the whole Espro community for coming, for making it possible today. So let's start with it. I think that you're already getting tired of me talking nonstop, so I'll just go directly with the topic, guys. So, okay, the question number one, I think, is why, right? So why are we here? Why is it so important? Why is it actually valuable for us? Well, I think that the guys themselves can walk you through with this. But I think that I would rather take this second just to, explain it myself from my perspective. And then slowly and gradually, these guys are going to be going really hard on their direct points. So hiring the most seasoned development team won't actually solve the problem without a business team involvement. We all understand it. We all actually see the purpose and the meaning of it behind. And both parties must be involved in the process to avoid delays. So in our opinion, in the opinion of Espro, in the opinion of Joel, of Andrew, and everyone else who is talking right now, I think that the problem with the connection, the problem with actually reaching out is vital, is important, and super crucial. So this is why both parties, on one hand, and from the other hand, should be really, entangled with each other. I would say communicated, vinculated, linked, merged, whatever word suits you best. So we can go to the next slide, and then we actually start tackling with the main things. So the agenda for today. Okay, we started with the question why. We raised the most important part of it, but let's actually focus on some of the 5 points that we have said at the beginning. So issue number 1 is the actual delivered product, which is not something that the business team expects it to be. Right, that's the point number 1. I don't think that there is any type of clarification that I need to actually give you for this. However, if you believe that you want to have a more clarification, I would suggest you wait a little bit before we actually start telling and exploring each of this topic in particular, like a particular case. But for now, I'll just walk you through. So the inflated backlog, the delivery process failures, developers lack product vision, and the stakeholders proxies with low decision-making, power delays, development process. These are the 5 main issues. Write it down, memorize it, take a picture of it. This is what we're going to talk about today. So let's head to it. Okay, so guys, this is my moment to finally make the silence out of it for a couple of minutes till the guys actually start making it happen. So passing down the virtual mic to you guys, you're free to start your perfect pitch.
So issue number 1, the development team delivers a software product, but unfortunately, it's not what the client or I from the business side expects. And the result is quite clear. An additional development iteration is necessary, which then hopefully delivers a version that meets the expectations. That doesn't sound too bad, but the consequences are really bad because an additional development iteration requires more money and time. And if you don't have something in a project, it's time and money. So from a business side, this is a huge problem.
Joel, I agree with you, as it's quite a common issue. And it's not always connected to the product, which is finally delivered to the business side, but it's mostly connected on how the development team deliver the product to business. And this usually happens when the founder of the startup doesn't actually understand what he wants. He doesn't understand the market, he doesn't understand his clients, he doesn't understand their needs, and that's why he is trying to solve all the issues at once. He's trying to find this niche or find the particular product, and as a result, the product release is delayed. And if we imagine that if founder doesn't understand where he goes, so how the team can understand where the team should go? And let's imagine the situation when we have all set in the beginning of the product development, and we have agreed that the product should be delivered in 3 months. We have agreed the scope, we have agreed the timeline, the budget, all is fine. And we start the development process, but sometimes we have some nice ideas which should be probably implemented. Sometimes something that was already implemented should be changed. And these changes are not properly communicated to both sides. And this results into the situation that the business side expects the product delivered in 3 months, but this will never happen since the scope has changed, the deliverables has changed, and when these 3 months have passed, the founder comes to the delivery team and says, hey guys, where is the product? We're ready to go. But we don't have it because we had a lot of changes, we had a lot of additional functionality, and when it's not properly communicated, not only from the client side, but from the development side also, this causes these delays. And I agree with you that it is a significant problem, and unfortunately it happens quite often.
Got you, gentlemen. I think that before we actually move on to the question how to solve it, there is actually a interesting question coming up from the viewer on YouTube. So before we move on to the how section, so that we don't forget question, I'll just read it out loud to you. And beforehand, yeah, just sorry for any mispronunciation with the names or any nicknames. So the user YL asking the question. So do you think this happens because of the business requirement gathering that is not detailed as the development team wants? And, you know, just to, well, yeah, just in your own words, how do you see it? And, you know, what's your take on that?
It's not only connected to the fact that the business requirements are not detailed a lot. It's more connected to the situation when we are changing the priorities. For example, we have agreed to develop this, and then the business side comes and say, okay, guys, let's wait, let's do this. Then we have additional function, and then something like this. For example, we need to add chat and then something else. And let's rework the login functionality. Let's add some additional features. And then in the results, the scope is large, but the timeline, it stays the same, 3 months.
Okay, understood. Joel, do you have anything else to add to this?
Yeah, I would add that defining the requirements in detail definitely helps to remove some uncertainties or some misunderstanding, because often the client side thinks he knows what the requirements means, and the vendor or the developers understand or think they understand it, but it's actually not the same understanding. So I think it definitely makes sense to specify the requirements in detail. Of course, there is a point where you have to stop, because otherwise you work for 2 years on the specifications. But it definitely makes sense to specify the details to avoid a product that doesn't meet the expectations in the end.
All right. So let's then, you know, come to the main part. I assume you have an answer to it, right? So you have identified the problem. You have talked about, you know, what are actually, you know, like what is the, let's say, the risk factor in here? What is the problem? So my question, and I think the question of the audience and everyone who's watching us is, well, okay, do you guys have any solution to it? So how to actually fix this problem?
Yeah, so actually the key is the proper communication. All the expectations should be agreed on the beginning of the project, but when something is changed, these expectations should be refreshed. If some scope is added, the development team should provide the new expectations to the client, so he understands that some features will be delayed and it will not be a shock for him when the time has passed. And so, yeah, probably the key is the regular communication on changes, on the expectations, and how the things are going. So it is the key from my side.
Okay, thank you, Andrew, for that. Joel, do you have anything to add to this?
Maybe 2 points. The first one is that often as a client, you think it's not a waste of time, but it's something that you just do for the vendor, for the development team. But I think it actually helps the client or the founder itself if he spends the time articulating and writing down the expectations, because often you think you know what you want until you start to write it down. So I think it's really good exercise by itself. Plus, I think not only the client should define his expectations towards the development team, I think it should also happen the other way around. The supplier should also make clear what his expectations are towards the client. And I think that will help for the success of the product and the project a lot.
All right. I personally agree with that. You know, sometimes, I mean, sometimes the problem actually lays on the surface, but sometimes you actually have to go deeper, right? So I remember we had this conversation, I think, with you already like a couple of days ago, that, you know, that there was the main problem is that, like, any founder, any business owner, any entrepreneur, besides the fact that he's the founder of the business, besides the fact that he's actually, you know, the main person behind the idea, he's also the captain of the ship, right? So this is the leader. This is the one that everyone needs to hear and, you know, needs to follow. But the problem in communication can lay on absolutely any, you know, surface, on any angle, any platform. So the problem is that if the the founder does not understand clearly how to express his idea, right? So what he wants from this, it is super hard for the other party to understand what do they want. So the essence of the communication, I think, is always number one priority. I really like the idea that this actually is the number one point in your pitch, just in my opinion, because I think that this is always what we should start from, right? The proper communication, a proper like proper identifying of, all the things, all the objectives and everything that you need to do. So excuse me, I got carried away, with my vision and my opinion, but I like this, guys. I'm trying to be a little bit more quiet and let you speak further, but from my side, no questions, no further questions. So perfect job. Okay, how about we move to the second slide then, and we'll see what's the second one coming. Okay, so inflated backlog. Who'd like to start first with their point identity?
Yeah, so the issue number 2 that we have identified is an inflated backlog. And what is an inflated backlog? An inflated backlog is a backlog that contains a huge number of tasks and user stories. And often it contains user stories and tasks that are defined in detail, but they are low priority. So they are tasks that might get implemented or that are planned to be implemented in 2-3 years down the roadmap. And for me as a client, this makes the backlog really unclear because it's just, to be honest, a mess.
All right. Okay.
And yeah, actually the situation seems the same for the development side as when we have the inflated backlog with the thousands of user stories and tasks, the team becomes defocused and the team doesn't understand which priority is actual today, which priority is actual tomorrow for this sprint, and what is actually the goal, what we are trying to achieve in this stage. And there is the issue that sometimes founders are trying to do everything at once. For example, they are trying to add as much as possible features to the MVP without understanding what they actually want. They're trying to make it extremely complicated in terms of infrastructure and in terms of technical implementation. And they assume that after MVP, the application will have 1 million users. And for these 1 million users, we need to have some solid infrastructure solutions. But for MVP, it's overhead. And it's better to focus on the features which will bring value to this particular product at this period of time. And there is another side in this issue is that when we do not see the goal, we spend some time on investigation of features and some technologies that are not relevant to our current product. For example, we had the situation, we have built for our client in Spain, the application which records the COVID tests. So there is the requirement from government that if you want to cross the border or if you want to do some other stuff, you need to have the negative result of the COVID test. And it should be actual for 72 hours. And this was enough. This it solved the purpose. But our client had a very nice idea. It was nice to have the tracking. For example, if someone has a positive COVID test, then we can track with whom this particular user can communicate. And then, so these people are in the risk zone. To make investigation for this feature, we have spent 2 or 3 weeks. And after we have built the roadmap, the client said that the priorities has changed and it's too expensive, so it's not the goal for this moment. So, but if we understand the priority, that it's a low priority task at that moment, we would not spend 2-3 weeks on investigation. So yeah, actually inflated backlog and spending some additional time on not prioritized features is very bad, but it's common, unfortunately.
All right, okay, thank you, Andrew, for that. So I think we are left with the question on how to solve it, right? If I'm not mistaken. So any suggestions, any tips, any advice from your side, gentlemen?
So actually this issue is closely connected to the first one, as we should understand what is our goal. If we understand what is our goal and vision of the product, we may prioritize the features we need to develop. So we can be focused and we can dedicate maximum efforts to make, for example, this MVP in this period of time with these features. And we will not spend time on not important stuff. So prioritization is the key. It's from my side. Joel, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the first step to solve this issue is to be on the same page on both client and development team, that we are following an agile approach. Because if you would follow a traditional waterfall approach, specifying everything at the beginning in great detail would be the perfect way, or the ideal way. So I think it needs to be clear. And if the client doesn't understand what an agile approach is, I think the development team should maybe spend an hour or two educating the client what an agile approach is. Because I have seen more than once that stakeholders on the business side, they think if things are not defined at the beginning, they won't get built ever. So that needs just to be really clear. Then I think there are some great tools to prioritize. One is the Kano model, where you basically classify requirements in 3 different categories. Then the second tool that helps to prevent this issue is story mapping. And I think, just to summarize, I think education is key here, just to make clear what priority means, what an agile approach means.
Mm-hmm. Okay. If I may ask you a question, gentlemen, I know that this is hard and maybe not very accurate to what I'm going to ask you, but I want to also, just picture myself a little bit more as the average person who is just, watching your, your pitch, and watching your talk, and wants to find out a little bit more. So my question is number one, the personal question that I've got. Okay, comparing inflated backlog, comparing communication. I know you've said that, these 2 points are correlated with each other. I think it was Andrew who said it before. Is there any, let's say, how to properly formulate it? Is there any, are these 2 points somehow balance out each other, or is there one point which is you would highlight as, a more important than the other one? Is there any sort of like privilege in terms of priority, I'd say, in terms of these 2 points, or in your opinion, you would say that they are both at the same type of level?
I think that these 2 points are connected like the chain. So we have the inflated backlog as the result of the issue when we don't understand where we're going. And if the founder, if the team don't understand what is the purpose, what is the vision of the product, and what should be developed first to achieve some goals, then it will lead us to the inflated backlog, when we'll have like dozens of user stories, and we will be not focused on delivering some value to our client, but on some investigations. We will spend like hours on defining the backlog, even the stories which will be implemented in 2 years, or will be not implemented ever. And that's why I consider that understanding where we're going, what is the purpose, what is the goal, it is the most important comparing to the backlog.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Andrew. Joel, I don't know if you want to say something else, if you want to add to this comment, or however you feel.
Yes, those two issues are definitely connected. I believe that the main issue for an inflated backlog is that it contains stories or tasks that are not relevant at this point. So first would be to kind of solve this inflated backlog issue, to kind of have a really lean backlog, and then define the expectations for those remaining user stories and tasks in the backlog. And by basically doing that, you solve the second and first issue. I believe that's kind of the key, if that makes sense.
Okay, understood that, thank you. Gentlemen, I have a couple of questions from the viewers. I don't know if you want me to ask those questions right now, or you would rather prefer to keep it, you know, for a later purpose, after maybe another point issue, or maybe after we finished up, because the questions that I'm receiving now, they are more practical, right? So they're not maybe directly, let's say, asking or trying to maybe, you know, get the precise answer out of each issue, rather that they are more real life situations and real life issues. So however you tell me with it right now, we will head to this direction. So what do you prefer?
I'm fine to answer the questions now. So
Perfect.
So we will
Okay.
not lose
Okay.
them.
So, all right. Okay. Then I will try to minimize this in a fastest way possible, and will be really interesting to hear, you know, the opinion from you two. So question number one: at what stage do actually team performance problems usually arise? So we are talking about, you know, internal. If I understand the question correctly from the viewer, so. Internal team problems, what kind of stage of the development, what kind of stage they usually arise? Do you have any perspective or your own experience with that? Could you please elaborate on this further?
So, like from my experience, there are two key points when these issues can arrive. The first is the start of the project. So when something is not defined, when something is missing, but we need to start, as we have the tight deadline and the client may have some deadline. So we are trying to push faster. And something can be missing, something can be understood not correctly, and it is the first critical point. The second critical point is the delivery process itself. It's like two last sprints when all seems fine, all user stories are completed, we are trying to put everything together, and something starts to go wrong, something also starts to be missing. Then we need to prepare the production environment, do all the regressions, set up the infrastructure, and at that point all mistakes which were done during the whole development, they appear, and it's the first critical point of the product.
All right. Joel, do you want to add anything to Andrew's speech?
No, I couldn't agree more. Nothing to add.
Perfect. Neither do I, really. I think that the question is good, and so is the answer in my case. So thanks one more time, Andrew, for your comment. I think we shall move on. What do you think?
Sure.
Perfect. Okay. So the question number three, the issue, I would say the number three, which is regarding the stakeholders' proxies with low decision-making power delays in the development process. What's your take on this, guys?
Right. So as a founder, I might not have enough time to spend the entire day with the vendor, with the development team. And therefore, I might install a so-called proxy, which is a person that is in a constant contact with the development team. But that causes or could cause some issues. And I believe Andrew will comment on that.
Yeah. sometimes it happens that the proxy doesn't actually have power to make any decisions. And for like any minor questions, the proxy needs to go to the founder, ask his opinion, then return to the team, provide the answer, and then team may have some additional questions, and it's kind of a loop. When we're trying to solve like minor issue, which is so small, but it takes like days, sometimes weeks. As the founder is busy, he needs to focus on the business side. And this proxy is like the broken phone. He doesn't give any value because he actually do not have any power to make decisions. And sometimes this happens, and the result is like constant delays in functionality, and the project manager and the product manager from the development side, they're like very nervous. They're trying to exclude the proxy from this communication scheme, and they're like bombarding the founder with dozens of questions as they see that the process goes wrong.
All right.
And
okay.
Yeah, so there is also the solution for this. Actually, the responsibilities should be agreed before founder actually like hires the proxy. This is from my point of view. And the proxy should be put into some frames. For example, like budget frames, and the proxy can make decisions for features which will like cost no more than $1,000, for example, or for the features which will be developed within one sprint. And the second step is to have regular strategic syncs with the founder to discuss some like major features or major functionality which can impact the product. Or like the third option is to actually set this proxy inside the development team. As product manager from the development team, from my opinion, can be a good proxy. With his will also be put into frames, and he can communicate all of the issues to the founder, and then the process will be much faster.
All right. All right. Joel, I don't know if you want to add something to this. If you do agree with what Andrew said, or you have your own opinion and your own take on that.
In general, I agree. I as a founder, I think I would never delegate a project to a proxy and don't give him any ownership or decision power. I think that's kind of stupid because then he has to come to me. He has to run back, so it just delays. There is like zero or almost zero benefit. Maybe it's the benefit of he just collecting the questions for a day and then coming back and asking them in the evening, but otherwise there is no benefit. So I would definitely give the proxy some ownership so that he becomes the product owner, and I'm more of the supervisor or the sponsor of the product.
Okay. I totally agree with that. And the reason why I can't actually add anything to it is because I think that both of your comments, Andrew's and Joel's, they really do seem to accumulate a very proper vision and very proper solution. I mean, not the solution, sorry, but proper identification. On what the issue is like, and what kind of the problem we're dealing with. So I mean, I totally agree with you gentlemen here. I don't think that I have any other, it doesn't make any other sense to me, to tackle this issue from the other perspective, simply because there's absolutely identical, vision of mine to yours. So thanks for that. I think we're missing something about this, which is, again, the star of the show, the treasures and the secrets of all, like the most important things is, okay, how to solve it. We managed to really talk about it. we really managed to, identify it and actually, say what kind of the problems are these. My own question. How, what's the solution? Is there any magic pill? Is there any secret sauce behind it? How do we get over this problem?
Like, as Joel said, that this role proxy is only the delay. Proxy means delay, but founder should empower this proxy or like promote him to product owner who can really manage the product development from his side.
Ready.
I think if you speak about the proxy in a project, you made a mistake. So you should never have the term proxy in your communication. Then you have to change something. Should be called the product owner.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, just a couple of more questions that I have raised from the I have received from the viewers. If I may ask both of you, I think that it will be interesting to hear your opinion and your take on that. It's once again a little bit more real life question, real life situation. So the question is, what should I do if I don't like my team's performance? Very broad question, very generalized question. Of course, my take would be, okay, well, what should I do? Maybe jokingly, right? Like kill your employees, right? Like, I mean, what else would you do? Like fire them and hire a new one. Okay, motivate them and do another one. Okay, but I want to be more realistic, right? I will take it more as a joke. I will take it more as a comedy, what's more entertainment. But I want to hear a real, real life experience and real life expertise from you. What's your vision on that?
So there can be the dozen of reasons why is this happening. The team may be bad, or the communication may be bad, or I don't know, like the emotional state of some team members may be bad, or the team is rushing. So it's a very broad question, but like the answer should be, is if the founder understands that his team performs bad, he needs to understand why is this happening, as it is a game which has two sides, the client and the development team, but they are on the same boat to ship the product to the destination. Maybe there are some miscommunications. There is also there can be the fact that the team is bad. It's sometimes this happens, and if you understand that they are just not performing, or they are providing a lot of bugs, or they're not delivering on time, and there is no logical understanding for like logical reason for that, then probably it's time to make some actions. Maybe find another supplier.
I think this really has to do, this question, although I do agree, it's a very general, very wide open question. I do agree with what you said and what Joel also said at the beginning regarding the first point, which was the communication. It has to do, like, it has some really common sense and some similarities, in this problem, which has to do with the point number one that you mentioned. It's about a communication. It's a proper type of, bridge that you lay between everyone, not only from the internal side, but also from the external side. But here, the question is purely internal about what to do with your own team if you don't like it, if you don't like the performance of your team. The problem lays in identification of problems, actually clearly visualizing them. And then the next step is, of course, trying to solve it. So once you figure out exactly what's the deal, the second step is to figure out, okay, how to fix it. So pretty much the the conversation flow that we're having right now with you. So we identify the problem, we say why does it happen, but then the most important is that we actually talk about how to solve it. So as simple as that. Joel, what do you think about this? Do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, so I assume that this is coming from someone on the business side. And I think it's important to quickly communicate if you're unhappy, and don't wait too long, because maybe the vendor doesn't even know there is an issue. And it comes back to point number one, expectations. Just clearly say what you what you want and what is not going as you hoped for. And from a business side, I would say if after that the team's performance doesn't change, you have to switch teams. Or it's also possible that maybe you identify as a client specific team members that don't perform. Maybe it's not the entire team. Maybe it's just one or two guys that you're not happy with, and also communicate that. And if the vendor is big enough, I'm pretty sure they can also make some adjustments there.
Get it? Totally, and 100%, 150% agree with you.
Yeah.
So,
and it's funny because our next point goes also in that direction. I think it will also
okay,
help
so
to improve the performance.
Let's not wait. Absolutely, let's not wait on the next point. So can't wait to see the next point as well. So let's go. All right. Fair enough. Developers lack product vision. Okay, fair enough. You really said about it before that. So I'm gonna let you finish your point. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe first of all, what is product vision? The product vision is the big picture of a product. You basically answer how does the product change the world or the lives of the users. It's usually something really big. It usually goes over the MVP. It's usually where you see the product in 2 to 3 years. And the issue is that if developers lack product vision, they don't see the overall product, and they look at tasks and user stories in a really isolated way. And yeah, they just don't see the big picture.
We can compare this to the situation when the founder dreams about the starship which will deliver people to Mars, but the development team, they are just building some details or painting or building the engine, but they do not see the whole picture. Why are they doing this? What is the purpose? And they are mostly delivering some tasks comparing to delivering product. And this unfortunately happens. And sometimes just this happens as the founder doesn't share the vision with them, as he may think that technical guys will not understand him, or it's not interesting, or it's overhead. I don't want to waste time on this. But when the development team knows the product vision, they can suggest some solutions that can be implemented in a much better way. And this can add much performance to the product. This can save time. Probably they can suggest some ready to implement solutions, and this will save budget. So it's essential that development team understands what is the product vision and where are they going. And
right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No. If you want to add anything to this, please go ahead. I have my own take on that as well, but before it's important to hear you as well.
So I will finish with the sentence that I will finish with the example. In my old times, I was taking part in the project, and I was the project manager, and we were building the social and payment collecting platform for Sport League. And we understand that we're building the payment collector and social platform, but the founder, he did not communicate his goal. He just say hey, we are building this product, it's nice and fancy, and we will go live, everything will be okay. And we understand that, okay, there are several modules, but we thought that the core of this product is the social part. It's we need to integrate some players, we need to think about how to make the user interface brilliant. But the core was on the other side, in the admin panel, where the payment collection was actually made. And there was a lot of analytics, there were a lot of like payment support stuff, and that was the core of the system. But without understanding this, we were focused on some fancy stuff on the like web app, on some fancy design, user interface, user experience, and like that was the mistake.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to add something to this because I think that this is a very, very important, very crucial point. And unlike other points, maybe some of the other points, this one really lays in some, let's say, internal psychological behavior of each individual. So I think that, you know, if I had to categorize myself, some of the people at work, at, you know, performing, at, you know, like from working experience, there are types of people that what I call them, they work for work, and the others are work for passion, work for, you know, creating something, work for changing something. So they have a very deep and further, you know, dedication to their job. Not only that they are bright-minded and very high intellectual people, rather than they are also very motivated to do this, you know, because they see, you know, the purpose of this. They want to change it because of any other real reason, you know, that they have behind it. So lacking of product vision, I think that this is also crucial. I would personally, if I had to judge, you know, although I must admit that all of those 5 points, they do not go with the order of importance, you know, that these are the 5 very crucial, very important points. But if I had to judge it, if I had to personally rate it, I would say that, in my opinion, this would go on the 2nd place. After the communication, I think that this one, you know, and about the internal, you know, the internal compartment of everyone's psychology, right? Everyone's vision. I think that this is one of the killer factors that basically, if you don't have it, like if you don't have enough of your motivation, if you don't have enough of your dedication to it, if you don't have enough, you know, energy to really create and see behind, you know, the borders, you are gonna have some problems. Not today and not maybe tomorrow, but this will certainly be some sort of anchor that will be pushing you, you know, back, that will be slowing you down. But that's my vision. Again, that's very subjective. That's what happened according to my own, you know, vision and experience. But I certainly agree on that point. This has really, you know, touched some of my personal experience, you know, moments that I really think that this has really, you know, this has really, you know, made an importance to me. And, you know, I assume that to many of the viewers as well, they will be able to really refer, you know, some especially at this point, you know, to some of their own personal experiences. Okay, so we've touched, you know, I went a little bit more philosophical. You went way more, you know, not scientifically, but I would say straight to the point. So I'm like, meanwhile, I was flying in, you know, in the skies. You guys tackled it from more, you know, working perspective. But okay, so although we have answered already partially this question, I want to know how to tackle this issue. How can we fix this? How can we solve this? Is there any, let's say, a direct answer to it? So something that we haven't heard yet before?
Yeah, so I think as a client, we need to take the time to explain the product vision to the development team, because it's not something that just happens automatically. It's something that you have to plan in your agenda. And the product vision for me should cover at least 3 main or key questions. The first is, why do we build the product? Like, what's the problem that we want to solve? What are the pain points for the users? Then the second one is, which lives will be improved by the product and how? And just this question alone makes work really meaningful. It's from just writing some codes to like improving lives. And I think maybe not every developer on the team will be motivated by this, but I'm sure a lot of them will be. And the third question is, what will the product look like when it's finished? And usually I'm fully focused on the MVP, about what are the most important task requirements. But for once, I think we need to forget about the MVP and really look at the finished product in like with a horizon of 2-3 years, and maybe to follow up on the point that Andrew made before with the rocket. The MVP might be a rocket that flies into orbit, which is already excited, but imagine that you know that you work on the rocket that flies to Mars. And that's kind of the product vision for me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Joel. Andrew, want to hear your opinion as well. I think you've got something to say about this.
I totally agree with Joel, and I will suggest some like practical stuff. Is that first of all, product vision should be shared not once, but it should be shared regularly. And when product vision is changing, these changes should be also communicated to the team, as they may live in the old product vision. Like founder may even have one-pager strategy of his product, and this one-pager strategy may be shared with the development team. And when the development team understands why and what they are doing, they become very engaged into work and they show like significant results. Another like hint how to engage the team into the product vision is sharing the news and like about the product. If the product has been already launched and the product has users or the founder has raised some investment, this information should be also communicated to the team as they will see the result. That the product is launched, they have 1,000 users, that's great, let's move on. We need like 10,000 users, or we have received like $1 million investment. Okay, so we will move forward and the team will be engaged to perform even better. This is my vision on this.
Okay, yes, quite clear to me. Joel, if you want to argue, if you want to add, if you want to debate about this, if you want to add anything to this, please feel welcome. But I think that from what I'm seeing, from what you said, Joel, and from what you, Andrew, said, that makes sense. That makes sense for me. So I hope it also makes sense for any other user that is also watching us and will be watching us later on. But I think we're good. I think we're good to move to the fifth point. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Let's then move it to the fifth point.
The fifth and last issue that we have identified is failures in the delivery process. Well, what is the delivery process? The delivery process starts with the requirements engineering and ends with the deployment. And in this process, a lot of issues can happen. And to be quite honest, I've actually never seen a delivery process without failure. And the reason for this is that every project is different. Like there is never a project that is the same as the one before. Even if you've done 100 software projects, every delivery process is different. And usually every delivery process is complex. So therefore, there is a huge potential for failures. And the failures are really bad because oftentimes those issues result in delays, in unfunctional features, etc.
Joel, I agree with you that delivery failures will happen in any case. And this is something we need to accept and live with this. But we may do some steps to be prepared for this and to reduce the impact of these delivery failures. There are plenty of cases when they occur. We may not deep into these cases, but some of them are very understandable. For example, there is the gap between the time when the last feature is finished and the time when the product will be actually deployed to production. And this is something that clients should understand, because there is the regression testing that should be performed. There is actually the deployment should be performed onto production and then tested on production. And this not understanding of how the process is working, this may cause additional questions, frustration, not understanding what is happening, and the client will be upset about this. And I think that the best way how we can handle this is educating the client. And this is something that the development team should do. They should introduce clients into the development processes, how the company actually works, what framework they have chosen, what is the deployment process, what is the timeline for this. And this should be included into the estimation. So we will get back to the first point, that this will make all expectations clear from developers to the client.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
For one hand, I do agree with you, and that might be a very big turn right now that I'm taking, right? So I was actually supporting every single point before. This time it made me actually think a little bit, okay, maybe I'm not 100% feeling it. Somewhere around 100, but not fully. So from one hand, I do agree with what you're saying. That's totally understandable, totally relatable. From the other hand, there is there is a thought in my mind that, okay, so if there is such a, I would say 100% probability that there will be a delivery process failure, why don't you then try to take a bigger estimation of the work development? So as I understand it, so you are saying that in order to actually deliver, right, the whole, how do we call it, the whole process, right, in order to make it successful, there is some sort of a timeline, there's some sort of let's say indications, there are some sort of maybe requirements, and you say, okay, well, we have calculated and we have estimated with the team that this process would take us, I don't know, 4 months, right? But in the time frame of 4 months, you do really understand that, well, ideally this is going to be 2 months, but we are still taking I don't know, a month or an additional 2 months, an additional 2 months, just to make sure that we do not commit the failure in terms of the delivering, right? The actual process, the actual work, the actual execution. So my question here, both of you have said that, okay, let's say that there's absolutely no way of not committing any type of failure during the delivery process. But my question is, okay, why rather than not include a bigger time frame for exploring or for debugging or for testing, however we call it, right? However we look at it, because I'm still trying to figure out the ways, for example, if from my perspective, from the work, from everything, I don't think that I've had 100%, in all of the cases, I've had to say that I have to, I've had to admit that, okay, well, we have committed an error while making a delivery, so what do you think about, rather than we make a very close estimation with the time, we could give a bigger time span in order to make sure that we are feeling safe with this and surprise the client, with a early, let's say, solution, rather than actually say that, okay, it's going to take us a month, but in reality, you do understand that this is a mission impossible.
Let me try.
So go ahead, Andrew. Sorry.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. So let me try to explain. So first of all, we need to be cost effective. And if we are building the MVP, we should not take 6 months on delivering the MVP, because it's like when it takes 3 months, because it has no sense. And setting additional risks into the product development, this will increase the price. And this also makes no, like it makes no sense, because you will never win the contract in this case. And the fact that you will increase the timeline of the development doesn't exclude the fact that the failure will happen. It will happen it may be small, it may be hidden, but I prefer to work in the transparent process, when if something happens, we communicate this to client, and we can prepare the client that, okay, this is the complicated set of features, something may go wrong, this, and this. If something goes wrong, we can have these steps to be taken. So we have already the plan that what we'll do if something goes wrong. And this is the much better way of communication with the client, when he knows, okay, like if the failure happens, then they will do these steps. We don't live in a perfect world where like everything is fine and there are no failures, and we don't have to make an illusion of this. It's better to educate the founder that something may happen, but we know how to handle this. I think this is very important, and this is like very transparent.
Okay, right. Understood that. Joel, what about you?
Yeah, so I think if we know that a failure, or let's call it a challenge in the delivery process will happen, I think the question should be, how can we keep the impact of that failure as small as possible? And for me, a possible solution is to have a really early delivery, an initial delivery with less complex functionality, to get a feeling for the process, to get to the challenges as fast as possible, and not a week before we want to launch the product, where we have already made announcements to the public. So just get a feeling for the process, and also definitely not wait for the first deployment to test or even to production until product launch. So if there is a chance to have a silent public launch, I would definitely go for this one, because even if you are sure that everything works until test deployment, production deployment will be different. So if you can have a silent deployment where you don't announce it too big in the newspaper, maybe have some beta users that receive invite code, I would go for that. And if you're sure that everything works and there is no failure, then make the big announcement.
All right. Okay. I wouldn't say that you 100% changed my mind, but you are somewhere really close for me to make it like really feel convinced. No, actually, in reality, I do feel convinced. And I do agree that maybe with the clarification of Joel, when you said that not only that it may be a failure, but rather than a challenge or any type of, technical or whatever kind of issue, barrier, maybe anchor, however we call it. I do agree. I still have a couple of mixed feelings, but I don't think it's because of lack of your explanation, rather than my personal vision towards it. But I will most certainly agree with the majority of the facts that you've said. That about the delivery failures, 100% on your side at this very moment. Okay. I think it's a good time to make some sort of conclusions or some sort of takes, your own takes. What do you think, gentlemen?
So I will summarize all this, that in development process, there are two parties: the business side, like the founder, the client, and the development side, the development team. And they should work together to reach the product goal. And as you, Anton, said in the beginning, even the super skilled star team will not grant the success of the product if there is no support from the business side. And vice versa, if the client is brilliant and he explains the vision to the team, but the team is not motivated, the team doesn't feel the client, this will also be not a good fit. And I think that there are three major points that can significantly increase the success rate. Is that the good and structured communication, the common product vision, and trust. These three factors can bring the team to the success.
Okay. Okay. That went, you went really sharp on that. So you actually made me think about this point like twice before I move on. But yeah, straight. That was straight to the point. So okay. Okay. Joel, do you want to add anything to this?
Not really. I just want to stress the communication point that Andrew mentioned. I think communication is key. Yeah.
Okay. Gentlemen, before we wrap up, I still have maybe one or two questions maximum. One of the questions has been raised by one of the viewers, and the other one is mine. So let's go first with the question of the viewers, so that mine, maybe I will try to make you a little bit more uncomfortable with that question. Maybe push you a little bit off of the comfort zone to see exactly your take on that. So, okay. So a very interesting question, in my opinion. The question comes from one of the viewers, and it's about the, how can you actually check, how can you track and how can you tell that your team is performing well? The most important is how to track this. So is there any way you can check your team performance? I mean, of course, numbers don't lie, right? We all understand it. So whoever looks at the statistics, whoever looks at the detail, but is there any maybe qualitative way or method to track a progress of your team or this status, if you know what I mean by that?
Mm-hmm. So I think it's easier if the performance was good at the time or at the beginning and it dropped, because then you have first a feeling of how the team could perform. But also if you go with a structured agile way, you have the velocity, like how many user story points a team is capable to do. And if that number drops, there must be an issue, and that issue needs to be addressed. Otherwise, okay. I think if it's performing not as you expect from the beginning, it's really hard. You need almost a comparison, or based on your experience from previous projects.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Andrew, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, so I agree with the velocity, as numbers don't lie. But there is also another technique which we are using is regular demos. So each 2 weeks, the team should present the results of the sprint, is the completed functionality to client. So he gets the understanding that the process goes well and the team is delivering what they actually committed to deliver. So demo, from my perspective, demo is the very good way to understand where the team is located at the moment.
Okay. So one last question before I leave. So, okay, I've been thinking about this, and maybe this will sound from one perspective tricky, but from the other one, I think it's a very interesting question to reveal, because it's a kind of a question that leads you to open small curtains, to the others, and maybe this will also be helpful, and I hope it will be. Okay, so in your profession, in your career, in your expertise, working with startups, working with big companies, I want to know one thing about that. I want to know the truth about something that you know, everyone else thinks that it's super easy, but in reality, you guys know that it's actually not. So everybody's taking it as a myth, or everybody thinks that this is very easy, and everybody makes mistakes exactly on that aspect. But in reality, you guys do know that, okay, well, this only seems easy enough, and everybody underestimates this aspect. It can be any aspect, right? Regarding the workflow, can be any aspect regarding the you know, the execution, whatever you feel like. But I think that this is very common thing that, you know, a lot of startups come to you and they think that this is super easy and they will get it done by the snap of the fingers. But then you just have a look at them and you say, well, you know, congratulations, you've been totally wrong. You know, you've been totally misinformed about this. So is there any advice from your perspective, any maybe tip, advice, or you know, a life hack maybe to what the majority thinks is super easy and the reality it's not?
I think that the first step is understanding of the product vision. So what are you actually going to build? What problems this product will solve? Who will use this product? Whose lives will be improved? So this is the first question which the founder needs to ask himself. And after he realizes that, okay, I understand this like niche, I understand that there is the issue and I can solve this issue by my product, then it is the first step to understanding of what exactly needs to be done. And then he can work on like decomposing the scope and understand what features are essential, what features are not essential. And he needs to understand that it's a bad idea to start the product with all features he may imagine. He needs to understand what is extremely important at this point of time, what is extremely important to reach his goal. This goal can be like achieving getting the investments. For example, he understands that he has the burn rate for 3 months, and for these 3 months, he needs to build something to get investments to continue development. And this can be a goal. And then this goal should be communicated to the team, and team will do maximum efforts to make this happen. There can be another story when the founder can be self-funded, or he can be already with the investments, but he needs to understand what is needed to the product launch, what is his strategy to launch the product to the market, and this also should be communicated to the team. So, from my perspective, this is the most important.
Okay, thank you. Joel, do you want to add anything?
My answer might surprise you because it's really general. I think clients in general are spoiled by Apple and Uber and all those big tech firms and think building software is easy. And it doesn't take a lot of time, and because it exists, it's easy to kind of copy it and just do it in the same way. So often when I have clients, or if I talk to founders the first time, it takes time to educate them or kind of surprise them how much effort is needed. And that's just a process of educating them, because often they think like something is easy that might cost $1,000, but in reality it costs $20,000. So that's I would say the most, or the most surprising thing.
But that is still true. That is still true, and that is very on point to what you highlighted. I think that, yeah, I think that it's something that really gets underestimated, and something that is thought that, okay, well, you know, easy, we'll make it happen like by the snap of the fingers, you know, and that's when the problems occur. I've actually lied to you a little bit. I've said that my question would be the last one, but I think that is also will be cool. There's last question coming from the viewer that has just appeared, and I think that will be also interesting to, you know, evaluate and think about it. So the question is the following one. Do you think that the methodology such as Agile can solve or at least reduce some of those 5 issues? Not maybe all of them, but at least, you know, touch and solve some of them. So what do you think? If just to answer it shortly, or maybe, you know, answer it directly.
I may say that Agile, like the wrong usage of any methodology, will not solve any of these issues. So Agile as the methodology is really good for its purposes. When the like in the situation when you don't know what is going to be like what is happening on the market and what product, what needs the market has. So when it's total uncertainty and ambiguity, for these purposes, Agile is a good methodology because you will not spend time on the backlog for like 5 years ahead. You will have a clear communication with the team. You will share the product vision. You will focus any delivery failures and challenges. Yeah, so if you use Agile or any other methodology in the right way, it will solve, I guess, all 5 of these issues.
Okay, clear.
Yes,
clear.
agree. I think it definitely solves issue number 2 and 5, the inflated backlog, because you just prioritize or focus time on the high priority tasks. And issue number 5, the delivery process, because with a traditional approach or methodology, you would notice some of the failures maybe just in a later stage. And with an agile approach where the goal is to have a production ready product at the end of each sprint, you basically go through most of the delivery process in one sprint.
Okay, understood that. Understood. Well, I think we ran out of questions. As great as it may sound, I think I'm gonna have to let you go, guys, because there's nothing else that wonders me at this moment. Neither does it wonder any of our viewers. So the only thing I want to say before we finish is I can't stress enough how grateful and how thankful I am for actually having this opportunity to talk to you. And I think that this will be super highly appreciated amongst our communities to actually see this material, to hear this content and to absorb this information, because this is not something that was just simply found on the internet, rather than actually came from the words. They actually came from the experts and from people that do have their expertise in their field. So I would like to thank you for your time and for your dedication. I personally enjoyed fully all of this session. Nothing else to add from my side. Just wanted to wish you best of luck. And I really hope that everyone who's watching this up to now, or will be watching it later on, will also subscribe to the AskPro's channel, follow them on all the social media, and of course, also follow Joel's, but Joel's for personal media, social media channels, and all the other resources that will be available. You guys are rock stars. You guys are amazing. Thank you very much for your time. I highly appreciate it one more time. And nothing else to add. Just wish you best of luck, and please stay healthy. That's the most important.